Talking BTU Metals today. That's BTU on the Toronto Venture Exchange, BTUMF, the OTC Pinks in the state. Of course, they're working on the Dixie Halo property there in Red Lake, Ontario by Great Bear. Here to provide us a year-end update and a look at 2021. Vice President of Exploration, Bruce Durham. Bruce, appreciate the time here, and I want to certainly get into how you ended the year and how you're going to proceed in 2021. But maybe let's take a step back here and give investors a little more depth on what you bring to the table here and how you see things geologically for BTU Metals.
Well, thanks very much, Rob. I think where the best place to start is to give a little bit of background on myself. So I'm an exploration geologist. I've been involved in at least a half a dozen, if not more, early stage grassroots exploration programs that have become operating mines. And so that's the part that I like. I like being on that treasure hunt end of things. One of the ones that I was involved in was a large gold discovery on the north shore of Lake Superior back in the early 1980s called Hemlo. And again, that was a place where people had thought it was a small greenstone belt, didn't have a lot of gold potential. And we went in there, and between three companies, I think there's been over 25 million ounces of gold discovered virtually right under the highway and extending down to at least 1,000 meters below surface. And that was an area that had a bit of exploration, but people just didn't understand the geology and really hadn't spent the money to really develop the area. So when you go to the Red Lake Greenstone Belt, where we're located, we're working next to a company called Great Bear Resources, who's been very, very successful. And again, this was a forgotten part of the Greenstone Belt where people didn't think there was much potential. The Red Lake Greenstone Belt itself has produced about 30 million ounces of gold, all high-grade gold veins right near the town of Red Lake. But the southeast area had kind of been written off because, A, there was very little outcrop exposure, so the geology was very poorly understood. And then, until the 1980s, that whole area, when you looked at a geology map, was just white because nobody understood what the geology was. There were a few random scattered gold occurrences around, but nobody had really spent much money down there. Flash forward to Great Bear taking on their Dixie project, they've actually found large high-grade gold intervals in an area where people had bits and pieces of gold mineralization found before, but had really never drilled it and really didn't understand it. So they've been very active. They're drilling with, call it 5 drills that they'll be drilling with shortly. They're going towards a resource estimate. Some of this mineralization looks more like Hemlo than it does like a typical Red Lake Greenstone Belt gold occurrence. And so they're developing tonnage very quickly. The project that we've got is immediately to the south and wrapping around the east end of their property. And so we've got a 200 square kilometer property with virtually no outcrop exposure and very little exploration history. So part of what we've been doing over the last year and a half is really trying to create a geological database and come up with exploration targets that may help us short circuit that drive to making a significant gold discovery. So last year we had continued to ramp things up. We're doing diamond drilling. We've done some till sampling. We're doing all kinds of geophysics and really trying to use all the tools in the toolbox to make that discovery early and to the benefit of our shareholders.
Well, let's talk about those tools, Bruce, and get back to work here. So to talk a little bit about how you finished 2020 and turn the page here into 2021, and what's the game plan here moving forward?
So without getting into anything too technical, I mean, one of the techniques that we're using is gold in till sampling. And so when the glaciers have kind of scoured off the bedrock, they've actually picked up bits and pieces of gold mineralization. And so it gives a larger target than the gold mineralization itself. So we've gone in, we've taken till samples wherever we could get them. And we know now that there are a lot of gold grains in the overburden. And so now what we're trying to do is find the source of that gold. And so we've got this kind of broad area that trends in a northeast-southwest direction, several kilometers, probably 15 kilometers long, that's got very little exploration history, almost 100% overburden cover. But we do know that there's good, strong alteration, and we know that there is some mineralization on that trend. So what we're trying to do now is just define the better parts of that. We think some of the mineralization from the Great Bear property may actually come down onto our ground, but we haven't been able to prove that yet. So that's going to be one of the focal points for us in the first quarter of this year, is to get back into that northeast corner where the potential strike extent of that mineralization might come onto our ground.
What are the particulars on the program, Bruce?
We've got a diamond drill that will start here in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll be drilling right through till spring breakup. So we'll have lots of drilling. We're not drilling in any focused area. We're trying to do what I was saying earlier about trying to generate enough geological information so that we can actually construct an actual geology map of the area, and at the same time try to get into some significant gold mineralization. So there'll be diamond drilling on a variety of targets over the next 3 months, and probably we're well funded. We've got about $2.3 million in the bank, so we can continue the drill program for well into the summer, and at that point we'll be back doing more prospecting and geological mapping and till sample.
Okay, appreciate that update. Again, that's Bruce Durham. He's the VP of Exploration, BTU Metals, BTU and the Toronto Venture Exchange, BTUMF, OTC Pinks in the state. Again, Bruce, we'll look forward to checking back in when you have some more updates to report to investors.
All right, sounds good. Thanks a lot, Rob.